so happy to see you. If you are a job seeker or think you might become one soon, welcome. You are in the right place. I'm Claire Wasserman, a coach, speaker, and author of Ladies Get Paid, and this is Higher Ground, a show that gives you hope behind the headlines. The market is absolutely bad. And so I'm here along with some special guests to help pull back the curtain on what's really going on with hiring. And most importantly, what you can do about it. Because we're all about action here. After every show, there is a special invite for all job seekers to come together for a digital gathering free of charge, where we will be implementing some of the things that we learned here on the show and also do a little bit of networking. I've coached thousands of job seekers over the years, and I've been one myself. I've been laid off. I've been fired brutally. I know what a struggle this can be. And it's not just about a job, it's sometimes your whole identity. And you have a lot going on right now. Please know this. You are not alone. You will get through this, and we are here to support you. Let's do a quick market check and then dive right into best practices for creating your best resume. The World Economic Forum dropped its report on the future of jobs and a seismic shift in the workforce and where we're headed over the next 5 years. Let me give you the key takeaways and, most importantly, how you can leverage them to your benefit. According to the report, there will be a net addition of 71 million jobs. The fastest growing jobs are in AI, fintech, renewable energy, and engineering. And the care economy presents potentially a massive job opportunity as populations age. I'm looking at you, boomers. In the next 5 years, the fastest growing technical skills will be AI, big data, networks, and cybersecurity. 39% of current skills will be transformed or outdated by 2030. 70% of employers consider analytical skills the most essential, and soft skills like creativity, resilience, flexibility, and lifelong learning are becoming increasingly important. 50% of employers plan to reorient business strategies for AI. 2 in 3 employers will hire for AI-specific skills, and 40% expect workforce reductions due to automation. However, in every obstacle, there's an opportunity. As AI becomes more universally available, human connection and communication will become even more valuable. Success will require balancing technical AI skills with fundamental human capabilities. So what does that mean for job seekers? Develop the ability to translate complex technical concepts to a non-technical audience. Experiment with AI tools to boost your productivity. Develop prompting skills that generate valuable outputs. The most successful job seekers will be those who use AI as an enhancement tool. Remember, AI is the tool, and you are the one to use it. The economy is more resilient than people think. And guess what? So are you. Yes, there's uncertainty, but uncertainty can also create opportunities for those who are ready to adapt. Employers are craving stability in uncertain times. Show them how you have thrived through chaos before and let creativity, resilience, and adaptability be your superpowers. The job market is changing, but it is not disappearing. Stay strategic, stay persistent, and remember, your next amazing role is out there for you to claim it. Or maybe create it. Now, here to give us some hope behind the headlines is Ashley Cash. Yes, that is her real last name. Ashley is a resume writer, interview, and salary negotiation coach. Her clients have landed interviews and jobs at places like Google, Amazon, JP Morgan, Topgolf, and more. Hi, Ashley. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show here with me today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, so we're going to be talking resumes because that is the foundation of your job search materials. It's also something that I think is frustrating to a lot of job seekers. How do I take my entire life history and put it into one page? Or is it 2 pages? Or is it 3 pages? Lots of questions, but you're the expert when it comes to this stuff. What are the questions you normally receive? What are they specifically looking for? And maybe some do's and
Yeah.
don'ts would be a great place to kick us off.
So let's talk a little bit about questions that come up consistently, resume questions that make people want to pull their hair out. And there's 2 questions. One's a really easy one that I get a lot, and that is, should my resume only be 1 page? And that is a simple answer. I'm going to set some people free here. 2 pages max. And I'll also put a little asterisk with that advice to say, y'all forget about the rules, okay? Your resume, your career, your story, your way. When it comes to length, 2 pages max, because we all know everyone has a short attention span, get to the point. But I wouldn't lose sleep over it. And from my perspective as a hiring manager, Claire, you're going to agree with this, I know. You've never in your life seen a resume of someone who is qualified and accomplished, and you're like, I would call them for an interview, but darn it, that resume is 2 pages or three. Like it becomes so insignificant when we focus on the big picture, which is what the reader looking for there, and can they easily find it so they want to pick up the phone and call you. So that's hopefully somebody's going to be set free from that prison tonight.
Yeah. Okay. That's very helpful. Do's and don'ts right off the bat. We got the page numbers. What else for sure somebody needs to be thinking about for their resume? And what are
Yes.
some pitfalls to avoid?
Yep. I joked about this on LinkedIn a little bit. So for us who've been working for a number of years, 10 years plus, it can feel very maybe intuitive or maybe intentional to want to create a resume that reads or feels like a career biography, right? Every job we've ever had, every task and responsibility we've ever held. And I say, especially to those of us who are a little bit more seasoned, and also those of us who are targeting high level roles, less is more, right? So a pitfall, a big don't, is to feel compelled or maybe have a security blanket of, I'm just going to ambush the reader with anything and everything, right? We want to be targeted, focused, specific. And most importantly, we want to write our resumes with the reader in mind, right? When we have that biography mindset, that's for us. That makes us feel good. That makes us say, man, everybody on LinkedIn is getting laid off. The headlines are saying the job market is AI that. So in order to make myself feel secure, I'm going to just give them everything I got, right? I'm going to audition with everything. But those who get interviews and get interviews quickly know that they're playing a strategic, targeted, focused game. So hopefully that helps someone.
Yeah. Okay. So strategic, targeted, and focused. Obviously, a coach can help you do those things, but how can I do that for myself, right? What should I be looking for to ensure that I'm, again, being strategic, targeted, and focused in my resume?
Oh, such good. You've done this before, Claire. So I think the very first thing, and this is so easy, and I'm actually glad you're asking this question in that way, because again, a lot of the advice online can really feel like these $5 words, strategic, targeted, focused. What does that actually mean? And I think at the just first step, ask yourself, what am I looking for? And then just get really clear about that, right? So if you were to say, I am looking for a marketing role, refine that a little bit. So we talk about marketing, that's a large umbrella, right? Are we talking about digital? Are we talking about content? Are we talking about strategy? So forth and so on, right? So get really clear on what it is that you are looking for. A big myth is that a resume can do double and triple duty, right? Or that, hey, I want to cast a wide net. That can be another reason why people treat their resume like that career biography. But instead, if your target in this example is a marketing job, then you want to revise your resume to be focused on those skills, check the job description, that are most important to the type of role that you're seeking, right? That is a very easy, low list. You can do it in bed at night or while you're on the sidelines of soccer practice. That's exactly what I mean. And the other thing to that would be, if you're looking at your resume as a starting point and you're not sure what to cut, this is the exercise. All you have to do is look at the job description, look at a couple, you're targeted in what you're looking for, and ask yourself, look at the bullet and say, are they asking for this? Yes, no. If the answer is no, cut it or revise it to make it relevant. That's your exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think job descriptions are the blueprint for your resume. They are telling you exactly what they need to see from you. Oftentimes, they're also doing it in order of importance too, right? Those bullet points, like
Absolutely.
top four, are the top four most important things to them. I want to just
Mm-hmm.
add something here, which is, and I know you agree because I've seen it on your LinkedIn. For the love of God, everybody stop writing your responsibilities and start writing what your impact was because of those responsibilities. By the way, anyone can
Yes.
say they did anything. like it sounds generic. You sound generic. And no one is, right? We're
Yeah.
all unique. No one has our thumbprints. Like everybody is unique. The way to best
Yep.
tell that story when you're applying for a job is through what impact did this have on the business bottom line? How did this fit into the financial ecosystem? How did this move the needle in some way or another? I get very amped
Yep.
about this. Do you have any other A, anything to add, but B, any other, for the love of God, please pay attention to this moment with a resume?
Yeah. So first, I'm going to give you an amen and echo your sentiment around including outcomes rather than responsibilities, right? Outcomes are greater than responsibilities. And so another way to give people more value on how, because I know a lot of advice online is the what. Talk about impact, talk about outcomes, but how, right? So again, you're reading your resume and you have a bullet on there, ask yourself, so what? And then what happens, right? There's your answer. So sometimes you can quantify it, sometimes you can't, because I know a lot of times people get maybe discouraged about trying to include outcomes or impact because they're like, I wasn't privy to it, or it's been a generation ago. I don't remember what I did in that role. But just ask yourself that question. So what? Or and then what happened? Or even why did they have me do that? So for example, if you ask yourself, why did they have me do that? If it was to contribute to a larger project or a larger happening at the company, that's your outcome, right? So I wanted to echo there. The second thing I would add, and I think this is really going to help people, is for the love of God, move away from resume language, the results oriented, the whatever. What does that mean? I don't know. I have no idea what a results oriented professional
Oh, when
is.
people describe themselves at the top and yeah, that like jargon. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
conflicting advice because I totally agree. We were all advised to do that. And so then everybody did it, which means we're all sounding like each other and nobody stands out.
exactly.
But there was a reason it was suggested to us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you find that balance? And then can AI be helpful in that at all in shaping,
Yes. I'm so glad you brought up AI. I'm going to talk on that in just a sec. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Back in our day, at the, at the risk of aging ourselves, whatever. But back in our day, yeah, that was the standard. But resume writing, the job market, all of those things have evolved. And I think with the advancements in particularly social media, right, a lot of us are reading and writing a lot more online, which means that, again, from an attention standpoint, but also just the way that sort of communication has become more casual. It's become more accepted to speak more casually. Whereas, again, early in our careers, you had to be very professional and buttoned up. You had to write in cursive. Whereas now, that's not that's not the standard anymore. And so, with that said, you use that to your advantage by speaking conversationally. I'm not saying obviously not like slang or anything like that, but if you were going to say something to the effect of, I'm a results oriented person, I would say to you, what does that mean? If that means that you are someone who focuses really closely on the details without getting lost in them, I would say that. It'll be a breath of fresh air to the reader, but it's also really clear. And so now the reader is saying, it's like a little halo. It's a halo for you because they're saying, that's the person I want on the team. Let me call them and talk to them more about that skill set. So that's another thing to just help ease the burden of trying to write a resume.
Another example off of that would be instead of result oriented, I care about what happens. I always say inject humanity into your language, and that usually means your heart a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to be super passionate about
Yeah.
what you do, but it's still you. It's still an investment of your life. You only have so many hours in your life. You're going to dedicate it to this next job. That matters. This matters. Talk to me in our final minutes here, just AI. I know that's the hot topic and all things jobs. How does it help
Yep.
you write your resume? How does it hurt you, maybe, in writing your resume?
Yeah. Let's start with AI can be a great tool,
Yeah.
right? Emphasis on the word tool, meaning that it's going to help you. It's not intended for it to create a resume that you go to market with, right? And I think a big part of that is exactly what you said, Claire, which is one, we're all unique, and two, we're human. So even though there's a lot of chatter about the ATS and all that jazz, a human being is going to have your document in their hands or on their screen, and they need to see humanity in that. So that's yet another reason we don't want AI to generate a resume for us. But what I think AI is great for is to expand upon ideas. Maybe you have a thought, maybe you have a project that you need help summarizing. I think AI is a great tool to save sanity and bandwidth and come out with a good draft that you can then refine. So, yeah, if you're going to use AI, use it as a tool and not the heavy lifter.
Like you are using it as the tool versus like it
Exactly.
doing the work and you're just submitting it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share before I let you go? I think you may maybe make a guest appearance at the meetup that I'll be hosting where we're going over our resumes and maybe not, but either way, I know you do free resume reviews, but also talk about maybe
I
how
do.
you get paid too, because that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. In closing, I just want everyone to like take a deep breath and not overthink the resume. Like, I get it, it's a marketing tool. Claire and I talked about this before. Treat it again as a sales document and write to the reader. Understand, what is the reader looking for? And then finally, right? Thanks for the alley oop, Claire. So I am an executive resume writer. I work with folks who are targeting six figures or better. If that's you and you want to learn more about services, working together, or even a complimentary resume review, you can visit my website, ashleyandcash.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yes, and all of the links will be in the description below. Thank you for giving us hope behind the headlines. Always love a good alliteration and a really good resume. By the way, everybody watching, I am going to share my resume with you all if you come to the meetup that I'm hosting at the end of this month. If you're watching this when the video comes out, so it's going to be in April. The link to register is in the comments below, totally free. And we are working on resumes and eventually at future meetups, so much more. All right. Thanks again, Ashley. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Now it's time to hear from you. Yes, you. Every week, I receive thousands of questions from people all over the world, from all walks of life. And in Higher Ground, I will be featuring some of my favorites. So if you have a burning question, go ahead and email me in the link below. Hey, Brooke, thanks for calling in today. Tell me, what can I help you with?
Thanks so much for having me, Claire. So I've been thinking a lot about it, and some industries have been hit harder than others. There's entire teams or divisions just being laid off. What would you recommend when a lot of your network is also looking for work?
Yeah. It's a it's definitely a demoralizing experience to not only be laid off, but to be laid off with a whole group of people. I guess the upside of it is you're not alone. Hopefully, it's helping you to not take your layoff personally, that this is systemic. But that's also scary because that means are there opportunities? And also, in a way, turning your coworkers into competitors. You now are going to be competing with the very people that you've been working with before, possibly for your next job. By the way, before I go into next steps on what you might do, tell me, how does that resonate with you? Is that the predominant feeling that this is coming up for you, or what's your kind of biggest struggle, whether it's emotional or logistical, in the challenge that you're having in the fact that all of your peers or a lot of your peers are laid off with you?
We're all connected to the same folks who still have jobs. And so instead of me reaching out asking for help, there's a bunch of us who might need help. And so you're competing for your mentor's time, you're competing for jobs, you're also not able to help each other because you're all in the same boat.
Yeah. So not able to help each other. I'm going to spin that for you in a second because I think that you can help each other. It just might not be the way you originally thought you were going to. So here's where I think the best thing you could possibly do at this point, a couple of things. Number one, if it's an industry problem, and so I'm looking at, all right, we got the federal government, we've got media, we've got entertainment, we've got music. By the way, there are a number of industries where this has been happening for years, where there is a kind of implosion, an existential crisis, a remixing, so to speak. There's opportunity in there. So the best thing I think you can do is try to get really creative in reimagining where could this industry find that opportunity. So I know either you or somebody listening is going, Claire, this is above my pay grade. I don't do this. I don't do strategy. I'm not here to save my industry. If you'd like to stay in your industry, you've got to save your industry. And that might mean reimagining what you do for a living. And before we have you pivot out entirely, let's think about what are possibly some pain points that you saw before you were laid off, right? Because the writing has been on the wall for some time for a lot of these industries. Where did you see it not working? And how might you approach it differently? How do you think that your industry could be reimagined or remixed? You don't need to respond to me for that question, but I would say that's the first step of let's get really creative in how we are thinking about the future of our industry and what our place is in it. Part of that is experimentation, meaning projects. If you don't have the job that you want and you are simply not getting it, you've got to create something else for yourself, a project, a stopgap, a kind of playground within which you can practice some sort of skill that will get you to some sort of next step. We cannot be waiting for anyone else to give this to us, whether it's coming from a peer or a recruiter or anyone else. So, what could you create with your peers potentially, right? Somebody or some group that knows what it's like to be in your shoes. So, instead of looking at your peers maybe as competitors, gatekeeping information, they can really be collaborators in figuring out what can we do while we wait? How can we be the reimaginers of our industry together? This is also injecting a little bit of fun back into this awful process of looking for a job. I work with so many job seekers, and a huge reason that a lot of them get depressed when they're out of work for some time is because they actually really miss just working. They're like, I'm bored, I'm out of the game, I feel out of touch. And so, what is a way that you can be a professional again? Well, doing it by yourself is lonely. And also, you only bring one piece of the equation, right? These other, not competitors necessarily, but collaborators can help you figure out, again, projects or content series, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a thing that's going to make you money, but it's going to be a thing that keeps you exploring and expanding. Brooke, tell me, how are you thinking, feeling? Is this resonating? Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Obviously, I still need to look for some full-time work, make sure that I have some income coming in eventually. And how would you go about utilizing a group of people who is also laid off without it becoming a negative spin? Let's take something really concrete. Do you think having references who are not currently working is a problem?
Hmm. Oh, good question. And not at all. Reputation is everything, right? Remember out of COVID, a lot of layoffs, a lot of furloughs. There were stopgaps that people were doing. There were also just gaps in people's resumes. And the big question then was, if I apply to a job, will they look poorly on this 2 year period where I was out of work or had to make ends meet? Everyone knew what was going on. Right? Everyone knew what the atmosphere was. If somebody looks at your resume and they say, oh, they're from an industry that had massive cuts and they've been out of work, oh, yeah, and their references are out of work, it doesn't reflect poorly on the individual. Again, if there's reputational damage that's been had, that's a whole other story. But I would not worry at all about that. Really, the best references are those that can speak specifically to the business impact that you have had based on the responsibilities and skills that are required of this next role that you're applying to. Let me answer this question of how do we leverage our peers who are also unemployed, having us be support systems for each other and keeping it positive, keeping it moving. The advice I'm going to give you is, I think, the same advice I would give really to anybody, regardless of whether their industry is imploding or not. It's be the person that you want to see. So here's what I mean by this. If you are looking for work and you have maybe discovered, if you set up X number of alerts or you're following a certain group of people on LinkedIn and you've been organizing and aggregating a lot of awesome potential job opportunities, or you're following people who share thought leadership on the subject, to be the person you'd like to see, maybe you start with 10 friends and you say, hey, I'm going to send out an email every Monday with opportunities. It generates energy. We're all about taking some step forward. We don't know yet where we're going to end up, but we have to keep moving. So that could be one example. Another one could be Maybe you organize once a month. It's a fireside chat, could be virtual, make it really easy and simple. Somebody in the industry, maybe who's still employed, okay, where they are answering tough questions that you have, making this all about real talk, right? What are the chances that any of us are getting jobs in the next 3 months? 6 months, 9 months. If you were in our shoes, would you do? Whether it's a recruiter or the head of a company or whatever, somebody who's in a position of gatekeeping critical information for you all. You be the person to organize that event, host it, and invite everybody. Or better yet, team up with somebody else, right? Where they are being the interviewer or helping to spread the word. Think about how when you take this next step of corralling your peers into helping each other in maybe different and unexpected ways, this could become a little project that you could actually speak to when you are applying for jobs. Of your resilience, self motivation, creativity, you may also discover, ooh, there's a different path here. Maybe you're no longer going to just apply to the same jobs you've been applying to, but you've expanded your possibilities because now you're more tuned into learning and development. Or maybe you get really specific and you go, okay, I'm really going to focus on AI within my industry and do a series of whether it's interviews or some kind of content, some way for people to come together to learn, I think is probably your best bet of a next step because that's the thing that you all have in common. Besides being laid off, which is the negative, the positive is a desire to learn, is the desire to improve. And when we can tap into each other in the right way, done in a way that's easy for everyone to participate, you're really going to see, I think some very special people will show themselves as your champions for whatever is going to come next, whether it's in your current industry or something completely different. But tell me, as we wrap up, because I know we don't have much time together today because you got to go back to looking for the work. Anything from there that you have further questions on or want to dig in deeper with?
One of the things that you talked about with is potentially doing something different. And that I'm finding to be pretty hard right now because the market is so tough that a lot of companies want someone who has done that exact work before. And so actually shifting gears is proving to be just as hard as staying in this industry. What would you recommend?
Yeah, first of all, it's all going to be hard, as life is. It's a matter of what is required for each kind of hard. And then what does that mean for you? Short term, long term. What does the sacrifice look like, time wise, money wise? So let me start with making a bit of a pivot here. Everything that we do when we're trying to get a job is to demonstrate that the risk is not going to be as great as they might think it is. Okay. That we are a safe and exciting bet. So, who is more willing to take a risk on a person who has not been doing this new thing for very long, if at all? It's probably somebody who doesn't have a lot of money to pay you. So, now we're going to maybe look at smaller companies, startups, contract work, like who's in a position where they don't have as much leverage. If we're talking about a huge company with a huge paycheck, you as a newbie gonna be harder to get that job, right? Let's make sure that we're being smart with where we're even looking. So not just the jobs, but the companies. So you don't waste your time applying to jobs that require way too much experience that you just don't have. Then working backwards from the difference between explicit experience. So where you have literally done the exact same thing with the same network, with the same learning curve versus something that is similar, which is going to be a conversation about transferable skills. So you at least know the distinction between the two. And if there's anything you're missing, you have a plan for whether it's a skills gap or there's something you're doing to actively rectify that. What you're going to want to speak to, though, when you apply is that you have done your research on really what does it take to excel in this position and specifically deal with the challenges that this position has. So even if you haven't done the exact same thing in the past, what you have done is related to this job. But you're only going to prove this through specifics. Like it's not going to be trust me or empathy helps. How? How does empathy help specifically in solving the problems that this role is up against? It's really storytelling at its finest because you're painting this big picture with details. You got to make it easy for the other side to visualize how from day one, that learning curve will be pretty minimal. That again, you are not as big of a risk as they think. Plus, this is going to sound a little contradictory, but plus that you having an outside perspective is actually an asset. But again, not in a, hey, trust me, it's good that I'm an outsider. Why don't you demonstrate in a previous example how having an outside perspective or fresh eyes benefited a project you worked on? Give an exact example of a time when learning curve was there was something new you were doing, but how quickly you were able to figure it out. So again, it's in the examples, it's in the tangible, but start backwards from talking to people who've been in this position before, really who can give you intel on what are the problems this role solves, what's hard about it. And there's an emoji right there. We're doing thumbs up. So Zoom is on board with what I'm saying. But how do you feel?
I think that gives me a lot to work with and definitely gives me some positive next steps.
Awesome. Okay, good. That's what we like to hear. Positive next steps. It's always about, am I just trying something new, thinking about it in a new way, talking to a new person? You're going to just go insane if you're doing the same stuff over and over again to no results. It's also holding contradictions in both hands in the sense of being patient with the process and with yourself, but also continually pushing it forward, having faith in the process, but also not waiting, not being passive, right? I've been laid off. I've been brutally fired. I deeply understand the pain that comes with that. But boy, this is a time to dig deep into who you are, who you want to be, and how do you want to operate moving forward, especially when you're at a time in your life that's just so challenging from so many angles, financially, emotionally, just even logistically. Where are we going to work? Are we working out of our homes, right? It's pushing you. It's pushing you to get creative, to get clear, and to get moving. Thank you, Brooke, for calling in. Super appreciate you. Feel free to call back anytime, update us, and best of luck. You got this. There are tons of tools out there for job seekers, and here at Hired Ground, we want to make sure that you're using the best. Now, I may be a little biased, but I think the Get Hired dashboard is one of those. Built on Notion based on the insights I've gained from coaching thousands of job seekers, the Get Hired dashboard provides a 6-week daily action step along with scripts, tips, templates, and more. You can think of it as your all-in-one job search command center for landing your next role in less time and less stress. Something I love about it is how in-depth it goes, giving you examples of not just what to say, but why it works. Here are 3 of my favorite features. No more searching, no more millions of tabs open. Everything you need for your job search is in one place, hyperlinked. But also, all of your to-dos stay hidden so that you can stay focused on exactly what you need to do without getting overwhelmed. I love how it walks you through step by step on how to create the most compelling materials, because at the end of the day, your job seeker's story is really a marketing story. How do you compel your target audience to want to invest in you? All of the guidance is in here. And finally, scripts that you need for awkward things like networking, but broken down in different scenarios with different examples. Same thing goes for frequently asked interview questions and guiding you through ways to be comfortable so that you're ready for whatever they ask you. Oh, and by the way, it's only $98, which is a total steal when you think about how this is a 6-week program, which nets out to about $3 a day. You can learn more at ladiesgetpaid.com, as well as the link in the comments below. Time is money, and you spent it with me here today, and I do not take that or you for granted. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If today's show helps you, chances are it will help someone else. So a great networking tactic is to share things on LinkedIn. You'll get more visibility in the algorithm, in the feed. Yay, we like that. Make sure to hit subscribe, follow wherever you're watching this. I'm Claire Wasserman, and this is Higher Ground.